Hey everyone, it's Desiree. Day 5. We are at day 5. So we're going to do some die cutting today. And the dies that I am going to use, the first one is by KaiserCraft or KaiserCraft. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Beautiful poinsettia. I love the fact that all of these dies are connected. I didn't have to put a piece of magnet in there. I did, but they're all connected. Now, some people may think that's good. Some people may think that's bad. I like it because then I don't lose my dies. And I can just cut cardstock around there to die cut my pieces. We're going to step up the cardstock. So we're just going to use regular cardstock for this, but I'm going to show you ways to build on it, to add texture to it, dimension, and so forth. These are things that I've shown before, but just in case you're new, you'll be able to see them. The sentiment, now obviously I'm going to be making a slimline card, is by Picket Fence, and I just love this. I love the font. I love the look. I just really love that sentiment. I think it's just gorgeous. So we are going to create poinsettia clusters around this. Not quite sure if it's just going to be one coming off of this, or if I'm going to do a cluster and this coming out, or if I'm going to do 1 and 2 on this side. We shall see. Let's get started. Again, we're going to start with our background. Now, I started, yes, that's vintage photo. Of course, you're going to see a lot of that through that series because I love it. I started using one of the blending foams. I'm switching over to one of my makeup brushes. I have with every type, no matter what the blending item is, I have one specifically designed for vintage photo. It's amazing. I'm going around the edge. Now, this is a piece of cream cardstock or ivory. Going around that, I'm also going over the front. I'm then going to come in, once I know I have my layer down. I started out with the blending brush, then I'm coming in, because I wanted it darker, with the blending foam. Now I'm going to come in with ground espresso, just hitting those corners. And very faintly along the sides. Then I'm going to finally come in with black soot. What I love that this did, and this really stands out on the camera. It looks like the piece, the platform this is sitting on is charred. It was burned. So I thought that was kind of just awesomely kind of cool. I'm going to set that aside. There's a lot of ink on there. We're going to let that dry. My sentiment is by Picket Fence. I just fell in love with this script, this font, whatever we want to call it. I love the size of it. It's huge. So it is truly good for a slimline, a large slimline, and those 6x6, the 7x7, or the 5x7 cards that I just love to make. I love the odd size cards when it comes to card making. I am layering them. So I've cut from Desert Storm the top layer, and then underneath it I cut using black cardstock to build that up. And I'm really making this to be a thick chipboard, so I've cut this 4 times from the black and once from the Desert Storm. And no, I did not lose the eye on this one either. I'm on a roll. I'll say, see, there you go. Now I'm taking my blending brush and I'm going over the bottom of the sentiment. So I want that look, that gradient look feel to come into this as well. Now for that, I used the ground espresso, excuse me. So I am using that darker brown for the bottom of that. But I didn't want to come in with the black because it's going to be sitting above that line. I do apologize. I am losing my voice. I am going back to back with my videos and my editing. So there was a bunch that I did today, so I'm so sorry. All right, so let's look at the leaves, the dies by KaiserCraft. I'm adding interest and texture to each of these leaves by using a script stamping pad with my vintage photo, and now I'm going to layer these together. So I'm taking the smaller one and gluing it behind the larger one so I get that two-tone look. But what you're also going to see is the stamped image. It can be any image you want. It can be a script, it can be a fine detailed image, whatever you would want that to be. Once I know that those are now glued together, now I'm going to put them to the top. Now here I'm doing one at a time. Now I'm going to show you how you do multiple without getting completely inky on that. I'm taking my straight edge. I love the straight edge reverse tweezers by Spellbinders. Putting them onto each leaf, folding it up around the tweezers, and then curling the tip back. I learned this technique watching Susan Tierney. She is a designer with Spellbinders, and she does these beautiful dies. You've seen me use her products before. She has some wonderful videos and techniques. I will try to remember to link to her down below. I always forget. But if nothing else, if I'm not able to link to a video, I will make sure that I put that name down there so that you can search by it. Again, I'm going to be layering these, and that's what I'm doing here because I used 3 different reds so that they'll stand out. And I'm just looking at, okay, which ones are going to go with each, and then I'm just putting those layers together. Now, I'm not stamping them like I did the greens. There's going to be a slightly different type of stamping going on here. All right, you can see I have some open, I have some backgrounds. So I'm doing these just a little bit differently. I'm going to put 3 down, and then I'm going to come in with a scratch piece of paper. And that's how you do that. Yeah, it makes it a little bit quicker when we do that. You know, I learn. I know, I've seen other people do it. And I'm just going to use my hands and rub that. I'm going to use the same technique of taking my tweezers up that leaf, folding up around it, and then curling that end back in the other direction. It just gives it some interest. It gives it some dimension without adding any foam squares, foam dots, or anything else like that. I will be using a special glue. It's by Beacon, who also makes Fabri-Tac and 3-in-1, the alcohol-based glues. And this is called Kid's Choice. When it comes to working with these flowers like I am here, and you have all of that dimension, and you want to hold on to that dimension, you don't want it to flatten out, this is the glue that I use. Now, I used my art glitter glue to add the layers together. You can see when it came to the leaves and also the flowers. Here I'm just playing around with the placement. Where do I want this sentiment to sit on my slimline panel? Because that's what we're working on right now. We've decided to put this down towards the bottom because I must have 3 of these flowers on. If we're going to do it, then we're going to do it big. Now, if the card was bigger, I would have made more. This is not a card I would mail, to be very honest. There's just so much dimension, and I don't want to lose that dimension. If I did mail it, it would need to be put in a box with lots of tissue. And that's exactly how I would mail this. I would not put it in an envelope, of course. I wouldn't even put it in a padded envelope. It would actually have to go in a box because of all of that dimension. This is one of those cards that I hand to someone. I have my ivory slimline card base. My card base is measured 3.5 by 8.5. Here's that glue. I love this glue because the glue itself adds dimension. So all I do is take this and I dip into the glue. There's a lot of glue there, but it's very thick. It's a hugely thick glue. When I dip down into it and I set these in place, by pushing down on it, it helps those leaves to come up. The glue squeezes out and comes and forms around that base. It's absolutely cool. Now I'm going to cut these leaves. Yes, I know. But that's how I'm going to get my green leaves. And I'm just cutting down the 5. And with this glue, because it's so thick, it's also fast grabbing. Now you can still maneuver them and everything else, but it holds the shape. And that's what I love about this glue. I made ornaments. There's a one show that we still had this year that wasn't canceled due to our journey that we're going through right now. And I made these beautiful ornaments, the poinsettia ornaments with these leaves. And I wanted all of this dimension. And this is the glue that I did. But you can just keep sticking things in there and it holds that shape. It holds the fold. It holds that when you lift up those branches and you tuck something underneath it, it's not flattening it out. Where with the art glitter glue and the other glues, you kind of have to put a little bit of pressure onto it unless you put a lot there. But it sags that back down. This does not. Again, I get mine on Amazon. Again, everything's linked down below. Always make sure you check out my Amazon storefront if you want. If the item's not listed, it might be listed in there. Those are my favorite items and things that I use often. So you can see all of that dimension. I mean, it's coming off that card about 3/4 of an inch, which I just absolutely love. I do. I love the dimension that gives. I'm going to use those gems, just my stash of all of these pretty gems that I got off of Amazon, and I'm going to put those in the center. I'm spraying this with my gold metallic spray. I was going to splatter it, but I'm like, nah, let's go right to the spraying. I am going to come in with my white. I'm using the P.H. Martin's non-bleed watercolor, and I'm just going to town. This is like a 3 to 6 inch snowstorm going on here. It's not really a blizzard. But it's right on the border, maybe the 4 to 8. And that is our card. I do hope you enjoyed this. I hope, again, lots of techniques. Even if you have some of those floral dies, different ways that you can bend them and to give them shape. You don't have to have a specific die to do that. Take the technique and apply it to what you have in your stash. That's what this is all about. But as always, everything that I used will be linked down below. If it's not available, I will have a note there. Again, don't get upset. But again, use your stash. We all have one. Enjoy using that. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave those down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I hope you are enjoying this series as much as I love putting it together. Helps me to get out of my box, come up with new ideas, some different tricks, or even bring back some old ones that we haven't used in a while. Enjoy, have fun. I hope you're having fun getting ready for the holiday season, but remember what's most important. Always be creative. Until next time, guys. Talk to you in the next video.